Fellow Falcoholics, welcome to a very unusual Falcons versus Bucs Week 15 post game show. Thursday Night Football is supposed to be weird, Tre'Shon, as Tre'Shon Diaz joins me tonight. Alan Stirk out of town. Tre'Shon in the lineup. I promised you guys we'd get Tre'Shon in here after we didn't do Tuesday takes this week, so you're welcome. Thanks to Tre'Shon for stepping in. But I expected the Thursday night game to be weird, Tre'Shon, but this was another level of weird. This was legendary Falcons weird status. And this game went off the rails pretty quickly. It became a sloppy Thursday night game, and it continued on that track. History was made in many ways tonight, and the Falcons somehow emerged from one of the worst and most undisciplined games that I've ever seen. And yes, the refs were incredibly flag happy tonight. That is part of it, but still 19 accepted penalties on the Falcons, a franchise record. And the Falcons emerge despite some truly terrible decision making, some truly bad calls, some really bad end of game management. They emerge with a game-winning field goal as time expires over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tre'Shon, I'm other than that tirade, I think I'm speechless after that. I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah. Franchise records being set tonight. 19 penalties, and then James Pearce Jr. stepping up, separating himself from Falcons of past that I don't think many of us had heard of when we saw who was leading. Who previously held the franchise rookie record for sacks, James, and then Jalen Walker gets in on it. And I think now Falcons is they're the fifth pair to have 6 sacks or more in a season. Fifth rookie pair to do that. So, yeah, man. I mean, anything that could have happened seemingly happened in this football game. It was a peak NFC South experience is really the only other way I could describe it.
Yeah, unprecedented, I think, is the best way to describe this game on so many levels. And, again, this game it tracked like a typical Falcons game this year. Like, the only difference in this game is that the Falcons won. Most of the time, I would say, if you play this game 1,000 times, you have an infinite football simulator where you're like a cruel demigod of football, and you just force these two teams to play this game 1,000 times. The Falcons lose this game 999 of those times. And this is, I believe, we saw from NFL statistics, only one other team in NFL history has ever won a game after committing more than 15 penalties. And the last time it happened was 1944. This is
Sid Luckman. There you go.
Sid Luckman. This is the single most unlikely victory that we may ever witness as Falcons fans, in our entire lives. And it was a slop fest. This game should have been the cherry on top of we have to get Raheem Morris out of here tomorrow, because it had everything that we've harped on for weeks. Terrible game management decisions, just super sloppy performance from the team. And yes, the officiating was bad. We all know that. But just tons of pre-snap penalties, bad clock management, bad game management, all of that. And they somehow come away with a win here, and somehow it feels like this team is going to spin this as some great victory. And it's it's a fun game. Who I want to give credit to is the players, because they could have thrown in the towel at any point in this game. This one went off the rails. They were down 28-14. The players did not quit. They played their asses off tonight. They just kept getting back up, and we're not losing to this damn Bucs team. The red helmets are too important. We got to keep the red helmet streak going. Shout out to Evan Birchfield there. But yeah. I feel like somehow the team is going to try to spin this as some transcendent victory, and the reason that Raheem Morris needs to be kept around. Raheem Morris is the reason they should have lost this game 990 times out of 100. The players won this game. The players stepped up and made the plays and carried the coaching staff once again today. And finally, it worked. It may be in the most improbable way I've ever seen, but it worked tonight. So.
Yeah, Raheem Morris already after the game has called this a stepping stone of where they want to go. And stepping stones in week 14 when the season is over. It's a very interesting, I think, statement to say there post game, especially when, are you sure this is the game you want to model your future success off of? I don't think so, man. I don't think this is a stepping stone. I think you enjoy this win. Obviously, if you're Raheem, you enjoy. He's screaming into the camera. He knows his job is in question and that it's been a rough year. So totally understand, all the emotion that we're seeing from these guys. But yeah, there's a part of me that just knows that even though Arthur Blank was there and saw this team do something they've never done in terms of the amount of penalties they racked up. He's just going to see that smile when he walks into the locker room and forget about it all, and all the joy is just going to wash over him, Kevin.
I mean, I think also they're looking for literally any excuse to keep Raheem Morris. I think we know this. And we just, maybe we'll have to accept it. Everything we've said about Raheem Morris was on display tonight. This was exactly who he's been every game. The players overcame him somehow, and in the most unlikely way I've ever seen. And shout out to the players. That's who deserves all the props tonight. And I think it's just like, my only concern here is that we're somehow taking away like a positive message from this game. Like, enjoy the win. I'm not saying don't enjoy the win. Like, good on you guys for winning this game and delivering one of the most bizarre games of all time. Truly some like, some Falcons shit happened tonight. This is an all-time Falcons performance. And like, I'm just really proud of the players. We've got a lot of really terrific performances to talk about tonight. But at the end of the day, this changes nothing, and it shouldn't change anything, because you win this game after you've been eliminated from the playoffs. Like, that says it all. It's like, I don't care how many games you win after you've been eliminated from the playoffs, because we're not playing for anything. Like, I mean, so it just doesn't move the needle for me. I don't really want to linger on that too much, but I just want to head off any like Raheem Morris positivity that somehow might, like, just don't go down that road. Like, I know Arthur Blank's going to do it, but like, don't let him get away with it. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, this is not a good game for Raheem Morris. This is the players overcoming a truly horrendous performance from this coaching staff once again. I'm glad they did it. Like, I'm glad for the players, because nobody wants to lose. I don't want to watch this team lose on Sundays. I don't want to watch this team lose any day of the week. So I'm glad they won. But I just don't want people to take the wrong lesson from this game, which was bizarre and beautiful and ugly and all of those things all rolled up into one burrito of just truly it's the ultimate Falcons game. I feel like this is like the reverse 28-3 in some ways. So and I also say it's the reverse 28-3 because it means nothing. Unlike 28-3, which was incredibly important, obviously, this game means nothing, and we won this one, somehow. So just a bizarre series of events. I really can't. I'm just still trying to come to terms with how this went down.
Yeah. I think this is one of those games that makes the NFL great, right? It was truly just a out of this world performance, and it's one of those games that why you turn into a Thursday night quote unquote stinker. Yeah, this was a game people were not too pumped up to see on primetime, and it turned out to be one of, I think, the more interesting and exciting of the year. And credit to the players, like you said. I think Kirk Cousins, he loves seeing Tampa, man, and so does Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts loves playing in Tampa. The two of them, I was feeling that there was some resentment towards one another, but over these past couple of weeks, I think they've really turned a page and have really started to find a rhythm. Kyle Pitts just kind of had a game that it was the best game of his career. Like, it's not even close. He was dynamic. He was everywhere. 3 touchdowns. That's basically 3 years worth of touchdowns for him all at once. So it was special. And yeah, like you said, Kevin, I think it's a win where it's hard to give credit to the staff just based on all of the mistakes. And look, players are responsible for some of those mistakes. Shout out to Divine Diablo for somehow getting a face mask with his club hand. That was
That's also, we're talking about all the most unlikely
there's so
things.
many little notes that happened. There's so many little things that went throughout this game. The fact that I think that there was still probably, I think, 3 penalties that were declined in this one, so that the number could have been in the 20s. But it was exciting. It was kind of a hard watch for many parts of it. But they pulled it out. They figured out how to win. Special teams, outside of the really bad. I think the first punt, a lot of people were on them for that. That's what they're supposed to do. You leave the ball in the 10. They were short of the landing zone, which was unfortunate. Back-to-back errors on kickoff from Zane, in these last 2 games. But when he needed to make his kick, he went out there, and that's great because we're going to need to have a kicker for next year. And again, just seeing the rookies continue to grow, I think for me that was just something that we're all really hopeful to see, because there's a lot of pressure around that pick. But James Pearce Jr., I at this point, I don't know how. If you go to DraftKings right now, which we don't like any of that, somehow Abdul Carter is better odds than him to win defensive.
I'll get the
Rookie of the Year.
FanDuel odds on
So
here.
I'm just saying, at some point that's going to flip. And I think we're going to see the conversation start to turn to James Pearce Jr. about, this guy needs the respect of being considered for the defensive rookie of the year race. And it's taken a little too long at this point, but hey, we'll take it. We're going to leave this season with something, Kevin.
Yeah. I just, man, if you're going to trade away a first round pick, and maybe have that pick be very likely a top 10 pick, at least get the defensive rookie of the year. And it looks like that's what they accomplished. So, it could be so much worse. Obviously, we're not happy about trading away a premium pick, but James Pearce Jr. absolutely looks like he's worth that investment. I think if you would have had a redraft, he would have been a top 10 pick at this point. So, you don't love it. But at the end of the day, as I've often said on our draft shows, a Pro Bowler in the hand is worth, 2 first round picks in the bush, right? So, I mean, you can have all the picks and miss them. So it's better to actually have the players than the picks. And right now the Falcons actually seem to have the players. So that's great news. But, again, guys, thank you for tuning in here. Falcons vs. Bucs post-game show here on the Falcon Live, presented by FanDuel. And I'm trying to find these defensive rookie of the year odds on FanDuel too. We'll see if we can pull those up. But I want to talk about some of these performances. You mentioned James Pearce Jr., multiple sacks in this game, had a critical sort of pass deflection as well to prevent a big gain, and was just all over Mayfield's side. The Falcons defense, the secondary without Mike Hughes was getting roasted, and AJ Terrell seemed to be on a mission to just hold everyone. I don't really know. And some of those were incredibly soft calls, but he was still grabbing, and he knew the refs were calling it tight, and he still continued to grab. So, I mean, that's kind of on him. But yeah, Kobe Bryant, this was probably the worst case scenario for him to have to come in to play this team with these receivers, and it did not go well for him. But that D. Alford interception is one of the prettiest you'll see. I mean, gets the elevation, perfect play on that zone coverage, drops into there, lets his guy go, drops down in there, baits Baker Mayfield perfectly, thinks it's man coverage, and just, elevates, gets that pick. Beautiful interception. And, I mean, all 3 phases, work together here. I mean, the Bucs had so many chances to just dominate this game, and they just didn't. They just refused. As many mistakes as the Falcons made, the Bucs made just as many. I mean, they just kept giving the Falcons chances over and over again. It was a very Falcons-like performance from the Bucs, actually. And the big reason for that was that the Falcons defense was not making it easy on them. I mean, they were really getting after Baker Mayfield, speeding up his process. He was not running all over them like week 1. This was a very different looking approach to containing Baker Mayfield. And the difference in this game, obviously, was that they were finishing a lot of those sacks. He still escaped sometimes, but as a whole, I thought the defense really put the heat on Baker Mayfield and forced him into some bad throws. And ultimately, the Falcons did enough in that area to keep this keep this close enough, I guess, for this offense to come alive in the fourth quarter and deliver a win.
Yeah, yeah. The Falcons. Maybe this is the season where they're just focused on taking the series leads back. They took the lead back from the Saints with their win earlier. They took the lead back officially now from the Bucs. So it's 33-32. So I think they have their eyes, focused maybe on a different goal than we had, this year, Kevin. So shame on us. But we are happy to see, this team get the dub, like you said. It really is nice to see. Something that I think was funny was that we saw the defense start this game. Like for the first time we saw the defense start this game, it felt like it forever, and it went really well. There were two big, I think 10 back-to-back 10-yard gains, and then stood firm at midfield. Offense got to get the ball at second half. That seemed to, all work out pretty well. I think that's something that I'd like to see Raheem Morris maybe try exploring the rest of this season. I don't know. Could be interesting. He didn't get to make the decision today, but maybe next time he does, he'll have second thoughts and reconsider. But it's never too late to change, Kevin.
I guess that's something we could do. I mean, anything at this point would be welcome. So, thankfully, the Bucs saved him from himself. I don't know why the Bucs took the ball first. That I don't think that's something they typically do. So, I mean, it odd to say the least.
I know the Falcons love to do it, so they're like,
no, we got to take this away from them. This is their, oh my God,
The Bucs, I thought, I don't know if it's something Ulbrich, if it's a look or something, but in back-to-back weeks, we've seen teams just like decide that they're not going to commit to the run to start playing against the Falcons. Very odd. The Seahawks fixed that rather quickly, but Tampa, not really leaning onto the run game. And I think Ulbrich's defense did a pretty good job of standing firm on early downs, even though, there were a couple of plays where I was thinking like, okay, they're going to start, really churning out some runs here, but never felt like they could commit to it. They did a really good job of getting pressure on Mayfield most of the night. And I think Ulbrich called him Houdini earlier in the week. And, I think that they really, focused in on how do we limit, those plays as much as possible. And I thought that they did, pretty well. Mayfield seemed, has just been pretty volatile, in this second half of the season. And now you got the Panthers are now in possession of the first place of the division. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything shakes up for the NFC South in general. But, Atlanta ends up, I think, the only team that ended up sweeping them this season was Carolina, and they'll have a chance to sweep the Saints back after this. And so it'll be interesting to just kind of see how it all shakes out at the end, because this is a nasty division, Kevin. And sitting here, winning this game the way they did, and just knowing that they shouldn't be eliminated from the playoffs at this point in time, it is just really disappointing to sit here and see this kind of effort. It's great, we want them to win, but it was just a reminder of how open this division really was this year, and the team really just failed to seize that opportunity for the umpteenth time now.
Yeah, and. Oh man, it's I'm dealing with so many emotions at this point. Like I love what we've seen from the defense. I love James Pearce Jr. I love Jalen Walker. It feels like in some ways like this team has started to kind of come together. I think you and I have always said like this roster is good enough. Like this, it's not great. Like nobody's saying this is a Super Bowl contending roster, but this team should be winning 9 to 10 games. Like this roster is good enough. Look at what they beat the Bills. They took the Colts and the Patriots to the wire and should have beat both of those teams. Obviously, they got their ass kicked by bad teams several times because that's just the Raheem Morris special apparently. But like. This team absolutely, I don't really understand where this belief is that, they're just not good enough of a roster to compete, and that's why they're not a great roster. They are thin. We've seen that, but, they're good enough to win 9 to 10 games, especially in this division, where this is just a bunch of mediocre teams this year. And it's just such a shame that the Panthers are just going to run away with this. They might win this division with 8 or 9 wins. And that's how easy it would have been for the Falcons to break their playoff streak. And no, they're eliminated in week 14 because they can't even manage to get more than 4 wins out of 13 games. I mean, it's incredible stuff, but not lingering on that much longer. You guys know the drill. We've been talking about it enough, but I did want to also shout out Kyle Pitts, who officially moves into second place now in receiving among tight ends. And yes, nobody else has played this week, but he has a 70-yard lead over Travis Kelce now for second place. So I think it's likely that this will stand going into next week. And I don't think he's going to catch Trey McBride, right? I mean, that would be a lot to ask. Trey McBride almost at 1,000 yards already, but this, like, we're both Kyle Pitts believers. We have been. And if you wanted to, this was the first game since 2021 where he looked like a number 1 type of guy. And, shout out to the Bucs for just like not covering him sometimes. They seem to always do that with him. I don't really get that. So we need Kyle Pitts to do this against teams not named the Bucs so we can get some more data here. But just like, I mean, this is if you're hoping that the Falcons can like find something, and because they have to figure out their receiving options, we know that it's really just Drake London and a bunch of guys at this point. If Kyle Pitts can emerge and this can be what he is, probably not going to be this every week. I think there's only a handful of tight ends in NFL history that have had a 3-touchdown game, so probably not going to see this very often. But this type of performance, if he can sort of finish this year strong, I think we do have to have a serious conversation about maybe we should be incorporating Kyle Pitts, or at the very least, getting a premium pick for him in a tag and trade situation. The better that Kyle Pitts plays, the more compelling it is to tag him. And I'm not giving him an extension at this point, like a long-term extension. I think we're still very much in the we need to see more stage. But I mean, the tag, if he can have a couple more 100-yard games, like, I think the tag is realistic at this point for him.
Yeah, and that's something that I mentioned earlier, that even if you're not, wanting to bring Pitts back, that if he plays himself into a tag and trade situation, that's huge for the team. Like, at this point, if Kyle Pitts shows enough to where the team can realistically tag him and then move him in a situation like that, that would be big. So I think regardless, we want to see Pitts perform well, because if we can see more of what we saw tonight, and even going back through this stretch, we've seen flashes, we've seen Pitts, stand up and do well. He hasn't exploded like he has tonight, but the team is going to have to, come to a tough decision, but it can still work out in their favor. There's still the opportunity for them to be able to get something out of Kyle Pitts, whether he's a part of the team or whether he's not a part of the team. So it was great to see him ball out. You mentioned it. He seems to love playing in Florida. He's done well anytime we've played the Dolphins down there his rookie year, where he had a sensational one-hand catch on the sideline. He seemingly goes off every time we're in Tampa. So it'd be great to see this, extend to another team. And same with Kirk Cousins. I think if you're Kirk Cousins, you're probably wondering why can't it be like this every week? I think I saw a stat where now he's got like 1,100 plus yards, 11 touchdowns, and 1 interception in his last 3 games against Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles just has no answers for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. And again, that's why I would definitely caution people, like, shout out to Mark Zinno, who's like decided to pick tonight to be like, oh, well, clearly the Falcons were very wrong to bench Kirk Cousins last year.
He waited till his 4th game starting to say that. That's so
that's crazy. And like, we need Kirk Cousins to do this against someone not named the Buccaneers, which infamously was like a third of his yards last year came in like 1 game against the Bucs. So like, he plays really well against the Bucs, which that is a nice, point in his favor if he's starting for the Atlanta Falcons. Don't get me wrong, but what about the rest of the games? Like, I think we might need to pump the brakes a little bit. This was a great game from Cousins. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from him tonight. I thought he played clean. Should have lost the game on that fumble. I think he lost that fumble at the end of the game. Let's be honest. But, didn't really feel that pressure super well. So, that is something you do have to deal with Kirk Cousins. But on the whole, thought he played a good game. And this was definitely his best game of the season and his best game since probably the Tampa Bay game last year at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has to be looked at from a body of work perspective, right? And that extends to everything that has gone on about the Falcons this year. If you let this game influence, season long decisions, if you let it override, everything that you've seen up until this point, and if you overlook all of what happened in this game at the same time, you're making a decision based on what you already want to do, and that's just what the Falcons can't do right now. Players should celebrate. They need to be happy. They needed this win badly. These guys have had, a rough multiple seasons in a row. This was a big win for them. Because at the end of the day, as long as this locker room feels like they've got each other and that the players that make up this team are enough, that's all that matters. Will they maybe be upset if Morris gets canned? Sure, that's part of the business, though. Whoever the next guy is, they're gonna like him too. They're gonna get to know him. The life goes on. Life moves forward. We heard the same thing when Arthur Smith left as well. That the players were really down. The O-line is this, that, the other. It's gonna be all right. You just can't make rash decisions based off of emotion. But you know what? The players, they hopefully are having a fun flight home. They've earned it.
Yeah, and good for Cousins. I do think this is an important game for him. And listen, guys, like Kirk Cousins playing well only helps the Falcons. Like there's no downside to Kirk Cousins playing well. Everyone should be rooting for him to play well, because you really want him to sign elsewhere next year because it can offset his roster bonus with the Falcons, which could give the Falcons another $10 million in cap space if he signs anywhere for $10 million or more. At any amount that he signs for somewhere else will be credited back to the Falcons. So, up to $10 million. I mean, you can't get more than that back with the way that it's a weird bonus. It's one of that contract really bugs me, but, that is an upside. Like if he plays well enough to earn a starting job somewhere else, you can get a lot of money back next year. And, you're already saving, $25 billion, I think, or close to that by moving on. So up to $35 million in savings, which is like a whole free agency class worth of cap space. So, there's a lot of a good to be had from Kirk Cousins. And obviously I just want him to play well, in general. I mean, I don't want to watch bad football. Nobody wants to watch that. So, good for him coming in here and delivering a win. I mean, look, 2 absolutely clutch throws back-to-back, 3rd and 28. Hits Pitts there. They get enough to make 4th down like semi-reasonable. 4th and 14, hits a big play to David Sills, gets his redemption catch, and they end up going down to kick the field goal. So shout out to Kirk Cousins for the tough as nails throws there. I'm gonna overlook the sack fumble because it didn't end up costing him. And this game was crazy enough. Like I mean, it's some crazy stuff, but good for Cousins and good for Sills coming back to. I felt really like David Sills was having the game from hell. And so good for him for getting that big catch to end the game. But I mean, we all know like this receiving core is nowhere near good enough. And the one thing Kirk couldn't do in this game was like find Darnell Mooney like on target. He underthrew Mooney like at least 3 times. Like I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but just Mooney specifically, he just couldn't manage to get the ball to him. But yeah, good for Kirk. Glad he got a big game in here, and hopefully that will hopefully he will convince someone to sign him next year. Because guys, like the Falcons can't afford to keep him. I'm sorry. Like if you're thinking about him staying, they literally will have no money if they keep Kirk Cousins. Like they can't sign their draft class. Like they can't sign free agents. They only have 30 something players under roster. They have to have Kirk Cousins money to sign players. So unless they're going to just go all out, extending 1 million people and restructuring everyone, which would be very irresponsible. I mean, we can't rule that out, I guess, but it would be very irresponsible. Kirk Cousins is going to be playing elsewhere next year for salary reasons. So, they can keep Kirk if they redo his deal. They're going to extend Kirk Cousins. He's like 38 years old. That's the only way you can lower his cap hit. So, talking about irresponsible behavior, that would be the most irresponsible decision of all. Just let him walk. Like, let him play somewhere else. Like, he's earned it. Don't make him languish here in Atlanta. He's suffered enough, okay? Like, we've all suffered enough here in Atlanta. Just let the man... he doesn't need to agree to restructure either, JJ McCarthy. They can restructure him without his permission. He doesn't need to agree to that. And also, they would never do that because there's only like 1 year of the contract left. So they're just going to be pushing tons of money into next year and barely saving anything. It's not an option. So I would not plan on Kirk Cousins being here unless if he agrees to take a pay cut, which Kirk Cousins would never do that. That's the complete opposite of Kirk Cousins in every facet of his career. Then they could make it work. If he just straight up takes less money, sure. But yeah, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to find another quarterback somewhere. But we talked about Kyle Pitts. We talked about Kirk Cousins. Bijan, that fumble was just bad luck. I know people were getting on about that. That was just hat-on ball. He even put the ball in the other arm. Like, he did everything right on that play. Like, he got it. He saw the safety coming. He tried to transfer it to the other arm. And it just, I mean, great play by the safety. I also don't like that throw. I mean, the best case scenario is you're just getting Bijan blasted by the safety there. I mean, if he doesn't fumble. And, like, maybe you're just like, well, he's Bijan, so he can just break that tackle somehow. Which, like, okay, sure, he is Bijan. Maybe he could break that tackle, but rather not have him, get blasted there if possible. But just a phenomenal game from Bijan, and I thought the run blocking today was much better than it has been in weeks past too.
Yeah, it has, and the fumbles obviously are unfortunate, but man, Bijan just had another sensational game. He really has just been everything that we hope that he could be. And, we say it every week, Kevin, but there's still more meat on the bone. There's still more to get out of him. And that's what's really exciting when you think about this team's future. Hopefully we'll see who's here. Like you said, I don't think that, Kirk Cousins will be back to be a part of that, to see that through. And there probably won't be, a lot of other guys, but you mentioned it earlier. There are a core group of players on both sides of the ball that any coach that's competent would be able to get enough out of to win games in this division, to keep this team alive at this point in the season. This should have been, a game that we're talking about. All right, great. Now we only need to take care of a couple more wins after this, and we're in the playoffs. And instead, it's going to turn into we need to use this final 4-game snapshot to say whether or not we're going to save Raheem Morris's job, which, if we're having that conversation, we already know the answer to.
Yeah, you can't. Like, his job should have been lost when they didn't make the playoffs, and were eliminated in week 14. That's unacceptable. There's like 4 more weeks of football left. Like, he can't be eliminated with 4 weeks to go. He's got 5 wins on the season, man. Like, this is not this. We can't be having this conversation. But yet we are, because I mean, I think people are rightly terrified that Arthur Blank will not fire Raheem Morris, and unfortunately, we're gonna have to be talking about that for a while longer. And it's sad because if one play goes differently, and if Zane misses that kick, or they don't get that 4th and 14 pass, Raheem Morris is probably fired tomorrow, or at least it's very talked about. And instead, the whole clock gets reset because of a meaningless win in a game that you really should have lost, 999 times out of 1,000. This is not an impressive victory. Like, it's a fun victory and an incredibly weird victory, and I love it. Like, this is like the black sheep of football wins. Like, it's weird and you love it, and it's not like any of the other sheep, but you love this game because you don't get to see this very often. The Falcons are almost always on the receiving end of this type of game, not the victorious end. And I love this game for that, but this game is meaningless. Like, I mean, it's silly and stupid and incredibly sloppy, but I think the fact that they won doesn't really move the needle for me at all. And it really shouldn't move the needle for anyone that's being objective. But something tells me, Tre'Shon, that I don't think there's a lot of objectivity going into the evaluation of this coaching staff right now. I can't really put my finger on why at the moment, but seems like there's a current of something going on here. I guess I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't feel right to me.
No, something definitely feels off, and we've been here before. We've seen a Falcons team very similar to this do this before, eliminated, and then start playing a little bit harder. And everybody is going to play a little bit harder because, like you said, when playoffs were missed, most people are now assuming that their jobs are on the line. And you're going to see a little bit different energy, I think, from everybody. And look, they were able to channel that energy into a positive way tonight. They haven't been able to the past couple of weeks when it mattered, when the season was in the balance. So that's really what is disappointing, is because using this game as a measuring stick is such a massive mistake. And it's why we talked about it. If you look at the sample size of this whole season, if you just look at how everything's played out, it's very easy to see that this was a coaching failure, that this was a team that should have been in a better spot, and using the alternative outcomes that did not happen as the reason for why you should keep this team, using the outcomes that happen when it doesn't matter as a reason why you should keep certain people on this team. It's just bad management, but it reeks of the kind of management that we have come to know here in Flowery Branch.
Yeah, and it just seems like people are going to take the wrong lessons from this. I think the lessons you should take away is that these players are still playing hard. And again, I think this is just more proof that this roster is good enough. And I don't really have a strong opinion on Terry Fontenot at this point. I think it's kind of hard to have an informed opinion about Fontenot because, again, we don't really know what exactly was his call, what was Morris's call, how much control has Fontenot really had here. The buzz and sort of the feeling has been that he's kind of really not having the control that a typical GM would. So if you want to make an argument to me that we should keep Fontenot, I'm willing to hear that argument. I don't think there's any argument to be made for Raheem Morris, who's just a net negative on game days and has, even if you keep Morris, we're talking about now firing 3 coordinators in 2 years. Jimmy Lake was the most disastrous hire you could imagine. That defense was terrible, and the players hated it, and he was gone immediately after the first year. Zach Robinson, again, the players are trying to overcome that mess, and we've seen Zach Robinson slowly, now that Kirk's here, he's like, oh, well, now I can start using things, that I just refuse to use with Michael Penix, because Penix just can't handle it for some reason, Sure, Zach. But it's just too little too late, and this stuff isn't going to work against good defenses. And I think it's pretty clear that the Bucs are far from a good defense at this point. That team looks completely disheveled, especially in the secondary. But so we're talking about firing Zach probably at minimum. They still only converted 1 third down before that final drive where they converted 3 on those last 2 drives. 31st in third down percentage of this offense. And then Marquise Williams is going to be out the door too. I feel bad for Marquise because I think he's a guy that we do like, and I appreciate how forthright he's been. And this is a guy that I've been polling for, but it seems like the new kickoffs have kind of passed him by, hasn't really figured it out. And, obviously how they handled the kicking situation has cost them multiple games this year that they just really clearly couldn't afford to lose. And, so it's 3 coordinators that we're replacing now in 2 seasons. It's that alone to me is kind of the writings on the wall here that we can't trust this man to pick a staff. Jeff Ulbricht's been a good hire, but that was your second attempt. It's not good enough for me. I do appreciate Ulbricht. I think Ulbricht's fine. But at the end of the day, it's just not enough. So again, it's sort of too little too late for me.
Yeah. And that's hope, it doesn't come down to us.
We don't get to decide. You guys know what would happen if we were in charge.
But it's just this is just not the man for the job. And he can scream into the camera all he wants. Screaming into it because he went from 4-9 to 5-9. And yeah, man, I get it. You needed this win. But we did not need this win. The the players, they needed this win. They played for it, but this isn't doing anything, or it shouldn't do anything for anybody that's making rash decisions about this team. But we'll see what happens. There's still 3 games left. If this was the last game of the year, Kevin.
Oh God. That's the only thing is that they could still blow 3 more games and it'll be okay. But
it'd be over. He's coming back. He's got to get into that win column again this year. We'll see what they can do.
Yeah. We just can't have that. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But it's concerning because I do think this is the type of and this is why I think Arthur Blank is sort of showing that he's kind of lost his touch. Is like this win. Like, fans should enjoy this. And, like, I'm not telling anybody in this chat to not, like, enjoy this win. Again, this is a beautiful disaster of a football game. And I think any football enjoyer should look at this game and appreciate it for what it is, which was, like, a slop fest that turned into, like, one of the most unlikely series of events at the end of the game that I can remember. But that's not, you don't keep a coach for that. Like, this is not like a replicable thing. Like, we didn't see anything here that was worth keeping other than some players, I think, having damn good games. And we've talked about them, James Pearce, Jalen Walker, Brandon Dorless, Rook had a nice play in this game. Divine, other than that, somehow getting a face, you mentioned it, somehow this man got a face mask with a club on. I don't know how that's possible. It's like the club got like wedged in his face mask somehow. But shout out to Divine, and we just have to just treat this game as what it is, which is a fun diversion at the end of the season, and something you want to see. You want to see some fight from your players. These are all evaluation games at this point, and if Pitts can put on a show to end this season, you obviously like to see that. That would be good.
Yeah, next staff is gonna love what they saw tonight.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah. But just don't. There's not really anything like. This game actually, I think, showed you why Raheem Morris is not who you need to have going forward. I think this was actually the perfect case for why you need to move on, because the team had to overcome his mistakes. He didn't help them. He hurt them. He put them in a bad position with that decision to go for 2 was just so incredibly like out of character and like came at the worst time. Like, I don't get that on any level. Like, it's so strange.
I had people trying to show me articles, whatever, the analytic. Look, man, under 5 minutes, I maybe understand that a little bit more. 10 minutes left in the game, going for 2, you don't get it. You have now created an avoidable situation by missing step 1 of that process. Someone's like, you can't just say it's bad because it's bad process because it didn't work out. I'm like, no. I'm saying it's bad process because here's what happened. It was a 2-score game, 14 points. It would have been a 1-score game. Okay, it's still a 1-score game, but now it's 8. Sure, that makes sense. So now you have to go for 2. It ends up playing out. The Tampa Bay did not have to score to win on their final drive. It would have been a tied ball game in that situation. They would have had to have put up points. You put yourself at risk when you didn't need to. You gave your opponent an easier opportunity to close out that game. And I get it. Like, the numbers say whatever. I don't think the numbers said, oh, it's a 99% go for it. Right. The thing with analytics that people don't ever speak on is they don't speak on the don't go for it percentage. Like, that does exist. And you do have free will. You don't have to always follow the chart. So it ended up working out for Atlanta. They got the ball back, and all they needed was a field goal. But it came down to the same exact situation that it would have been had they gone for it either way. And said, well, a touchdown would have won the game. Again, you didn't have to have a touchdown to win the game. It was 14 points in that situation. All you had to do was kick the extra point. I don't get it. People can show me all the articles they want to and say I'm ignoring the science. I'm not ignoring the science. I just don't think that was a risk worth taking. I don't think setting up Tampa Bay to be able to win the game without scoring is smart. And if the numbers say otherwise, good for the numbers. Whoever is getting people to pay for those numbers, they're doing great at their job, because you've got people out there on Twitter just shoving articles into others' faces saying this is foolproof. And you clearly saw it play out. It's not. There is a risk to everything in this game.
Yeah, it's not just black and white. Like, even a lot of these like strong go for it type stuff, like you'll see some where it's like, oh, it's a 10% win probability shift. It's like, okay, well, that one is like totally a no-brainer. But like this one was probably like a 1 to 2% shift. And it's like, so in that case, it's really more of a judgment call. And it's like, yeah, if you get into that like 3, 4, 5, that becomes much more strong. Like, you really probably should do this. This was not one of those situations. And you saw why. It's because you could just do the go for 2 thing at the end of the game to win it, right? Like, why I don't understand why you want to box yourself in at like early to where it's like, well, now I have to, or I'm really screwed. you could just do the go for two thing at the end of the game instead. And then it's all up to you. It's like, oh, well, do I want to, how do I feel? Do I want to tie this? Do I want to go for the win? Or, what do we want to do here? Instead of being like, oh, well, now I have to do this. And the opponent knows I have to do this. Like, I mean, it's just I don't understand,
man. So I don't know, man. Like
we're very pro analytics. I think this one is not necessarily. I just don't think
with 10 minutes left, that's the move. And, whatever. It ended up working out. So the analytics guys won in the end. Somehow
the nerds won.
They won.
Somehow the nerds returned. And they won this game. But all right, we got a lot of donations. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's get to some of these as we wrap up here. I know it's late. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here on the Falcoholic Live presented by FanDuel. Let's get to it. We got ML Brilliance with the $5 saying, "Weird day. Raheem kissing people, shouting at the camera, going for two, penalties galore. Also, Kirk Cousins better than MPJ." Well, this was a good game. I'll give that to Cousins. I'm not trying to take anything away from Kirk Cousins tonight, but I think a lot of people are forgetting what we saw from Kirk Cousins last year, and it's all rose-colored glasses at this point. But I'm certainly happy that we get to watch semi-competent quarterback play at this point. I would have been a lot happier if we had like a third-round pick now instead of Kirk Cousins, though. I don't think having Kirk Cousins at this point does nothing for this team. It's much more watchable, but this team is eliminated from the playoffs. I'd much rather have a pick or salary cap relief, but no, they didn't do that because they wanted to have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Look how much that helped them. Newsflash, didn't help them at all. But yes, I mean, good for Cousins. I'm glad. It's only good for the Falcons if he balls out. So I'm not upset at all about this outcome. We got Alex Foster with the 5 saying, "Zane Gonzalez, you beautiful man." Yeah. Look, it took them, almost the entire season, but they did finally find a kicker, and Zane Gonzalez does look like a keeper, so good for him. Better late than never, I guess, Tre'Shon was Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah. We mentioned it earlier. If we leave this kicking, we want good things to happen. First of all, because there are problems that need to be solved heading into next season, and kicker is one of them. Zane Gonzalez seems to have shored that up. Maybe let's get back to Bradley Pinion on those kickoffs. Maybe let's see, if we can let Pinion do that for a little bit, since we're just kicking it out. Zane's had 2 mistakes there back to back, so maybe we just give him a little bit of a breather.
Yeah. Look, I'm glad we have Zane Gonzalez. I feel much more confident, and that's another thing. I know someone in the chat mentioned it, the Falcons have had kicking issues, so that's why they went for 2. They haven't had kicking issues with Zane. Zane missed 1 kick in terrible conditions in New York, where notably Nick Folk, who hadn't missed a kick all season, also missed, and then nailed a harder kick later in that game. So there's not a problem. Zane Gonzalez is not an unreliable kicker. He doesn't have insane range like some of these guys, but he can do 56, 57. I mean, it seems like he's I would say he's a 7 or 8 out of 10 kicker. And that's much better than anything the Falcons had up until this point. So I'm pretty satisfied with Zane Gonzalez. I trust him completely. When he lines up to kick, they had Parker Romo back there. I was there's a 50% chance this is going in every time. It didn't matter the down or distance, because Parker Romo's thing was he could miss any kick for any reason. There was no consistency or rhyme or reason to it. He could also make pretty much any kick. It didn't really matter. Zane has a limit on his range, and I would say it's a reasonable limit of 56, 57, maybe even longer. But I think Zane from 50 or less is pretty much nailed it. I mean, he hasn't always been right down the middle every time, but I think he's been pretty good and pretty reliable. So I'm pretty happy with Zane. And yeah, NC Hammer with the $5 also with some Zane Gonzalez love. Zane G and Kyle Pitts keep the throwback unis permanent. Bucs out Falcon the Falcons somehow. Still want Raheem gone though. Yeah, that's kind of where we are. And again, we have the Bucs to thank for a lot of this. This Bucs team, they really pulled out all the stops in this one. I didn't, maybe they played the Falcons too many times, Tre'Shon, and we've just rubbed off on them at this point, and that it was just inevitable that they were going to start taking on some of the Falcons' mannerisms.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it just kind of seems like Tampa, they're just a very volatile team themselves. I think that they're normally able to overcome that volatility with their own talent, but we've just seen that it's been a lot harder for them this year. But hey, it worked out in the Falcons' favor tonight, and yeah, I think we can confidently say that the Bucs out Falconed the Falcons.
Yes, I agree. I think that the Bucs out Falcon the Falcons tonight. It's the only thing that can explain this type of win for Atlanta is a team interceding on their behalf to make sure. Maybe this was diabolical by the Bucs. They're like, maybe the best thing we can do to make sure that we don't have to worry about the Falcons for another year is to just make sure Raheem doesn't get fired. So we're gonna throw this game. No, I'm just kidding. They're not doing that, but that's probably. I mean, in some parallel universe, that's like more likely than the outcome that happened tonight. This is just truly like I'm gonna rewatch this game and be like, I can't believe like there was like 10 dominoes that fell in a row for this to happen, and I'm just flabbergasted still by this game. We got Ferbs with the $2. Thanks, Ferbs, saying we have to keep Kyle Pitts. We are still unlocking him. I mean, Kyle Pitts is only 24 years old. Like we've been talking about this. It's like, yeah, I mean, he's gonna have a full second contract before some guys even go up for their like second deal. I mean, look, we have to see how Pitts plays against teams not named Tampa Bay the rest of the season, because he's a Bucs killer, and that's a nice thing to have. Again, if you're going to be a Falcons player, if you could take out the Bucs twice a year, that's helpful. Same thing with the Saints. If you can just take out the Saints, that can go a long way in Atlanta for your career. But do want him to do that against some other teams too. And last week was also a good step for him. That was another game. But like, can he consistently be a top target in this offense? I think this week and last week were really the first two times in recent memory where I can remember him really carrying the load as a receiver when this team has like nothing else around him. And it's impressive. I mean, and clearly like something has changed because Kirk like didn't trust him at all last year, actively like refused to throw it to him at times. And that's clearly changed. Like Kirk is all in on Kyle Pitts now. So whatever happened there, it seems like he's earned the trust of Kirk Cousins, and he's really taken another step. And I'm glad to see it. I mean, would have been nice to have it a little more consistently throughout this season. I don't know that I don't think that's Pitt's fault necessarily. Zach Robinson, cough cough, but it's been nice to see, especially tonight. Historic game for Kyle Pitts. Love to see it. All right, we got Blue Boy saying with the $10, now Raheem can say they got out Falconed, and it will be the truth. This joke is gonna be a gold mine now. Now that Raheem has said that, so this is what out Falconing actually looks like. He thought out Falconed was like, oh no, they ran ball control and played our game better than us. No, this tonight is the real out Falconed. So I totally agree there. We got Kevin Truck with the $10. Thank you, Kevin. Shout out to a fellow Kevin. Saying watching Raheem look into the camera at the end made my stomach turn. Buddy, you are not him. I'm really hoping for a tear down next season with getting rid of players like Jake Matthews type of moves. I don't think they can really move on from Matthews. Like, Matthews didn't have a good game tonight. I mean, the penalties were not great, but he's still like one of your most reliable offensive linemen, and the dude just doesn't miss games. He's like, I fully believe Jake Matthews has probably had like several very like impactful injuries in his career and is just like Iron Man through it somehow. Like this man has played more games in a row than any other player in NFL history at this point, I think, or at least offensive lineman. So shout out to Jake Matthews. I love Jake. Again, he's not like a top 5 like type of elite tackle anymore, but he's still a good tackle, and the Falcons have got him under contract. I think he's going to be here for at least another season. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about Matthew's situation, Tre'Shon?
Yeah, it was a tough game for the veteran, but he's earned a few. And he clearly wasn't the only one struggling with penalties tonight. That's probably what's really saving him more than anything. Is that it was a rough day for everybody. I think just based on the team's situation that he's gonna be back next year. I don't think they can really afford to lose him. We're hoping that Caleb McGarry comes back and is okay. We still have to see, what the tackle situation is really going to be like moving forward. We don't know if Storm Norton's going to be the same after his injury, which turned into a full IR situation. So the Falcons really need Jake Matthews to kind of be able to hold on here. It wasn't, again, his best game, but the team was able to, of course, win. That didn't matter. So they got away with it tonight. Let's just hope that, Jake's able to hold up.
Yeah. They've invested in him too. Like I do think that they're committed to him for at least a little bit. So we'll see what happens with that. We got Guy Fieri, aka Solaire. What's up, Solaire? With the $2 saying it's no mystery what really transpired here. The red helmets are actually the source of the Falcons' power. Until the permanent switch is made, we lift our voices to the draft takes, for they are all that remain, the only truth that keeps our eyes fixed on this team. Thank you for the eloquent statement there, Solaire. Yeah, we all know the reason they won this game is because of the red helmets. If they didn't have the red helmets on, there was no chance. So that was just enough good mojo to get them over the finish line here. And yeah, I know someone had mentioned, I think there was another comment, from Vasky with the 5 saying, did you guys see the Falcons are confirmed to be getting new uniforms next year? About damn time. Yeah. I've been thinking this for a long time. I thought they were going to do it this year, and then they didn't. So I was like, okay, it's probably going to be next year. And like we've talked about, in the offseason, they painted the new Flowery Branch locker room, and they made it look like the throwbacks with the red helmet and the gold stripe and all that stuff. I don't think you're just painting your locker room, this huge renovation. You're just going to paint this locker room based on your throwbacks to wear like twice a year. Didn't buy that. And I think we're going to see a version of the throwbacks, apparently like a modernized version or something of the throwbacks as their primary. And then, of course, they'll have the classics that they'll continue to mix in. But I'm interested to see if I think that would be a good look for them. I mean, I think everyone likes that sort of red helmets, black classic look. So we'll see. I think the teams that have kind of gone back to their classic looks have all kind of they've been better jerseys than the previous version. Bucs are a good example of that. But what do you think about the new jerseys, Tre'Shon?
They need to happen, Kevin. That's what I think. Right? Red helmets, whatever. I don't care if they're the black helmets with the throwback. Just get out of these current uniforms, which have clearly, it's clearly been the curse, Kevin. That's what's really wrong with this franchise. We just get these uniforms fixed. We just get Zach Robinson out of here. We just get Marquise Williams out of here. We just do all these things except get rid of Raheem Morris, and we're gonna be back on track.
Yeah. We can just exercise the demons all at once. We can get rid of these uniforms. We could get rid of this coaching staff. Jury's still out on Fontenot. We'll see. I don't really have a strong opinion. I mean, I think I've been one of Fontenot's biggest defenders, but I don't really know what to think. I mean, obviously this draft helps him a lot because James Pearce looks amazing and Jalen Walker looks great and the picks from last year look a lot better. So it seems like maybe he's finally kind of finding his footing in the draft, which is something he struggled in kind of early in his career. So I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is why I don't get paid to make these decisions. So I'm going to leave it up to the decision makers and not me. But love to see the new jerseys. That's for sure. We got KNJ with $2 saying, if we get Drake London back, I can see us winning out. I certainly hope they don't win out. No, I'm just kidding. I want them to win like football games, but it's just like, I think they're probably not going to rush Drake London back. I think, honestly, if they were in contention, Drake would probably be playing at this point. And I don't know if that's wise for the record, but like with nothing to play for, I think they're wise. So just let him sit until he's fully healthy. And, I don't even know if you need to rush him back at all this year, honestly. Like, I mean, if you're going to funnel all these targets to Kyle Pitts to inflate that tag and trade pick up into the second round range, then, I'm all for it also. So let's get it done. And then Vasky also asked, who's you guys' dream sort of coaching hire at this point? I mean, I'm into Clint Kubiak. I mean, I was talking last week with the Seahawks guys, and they love Clint. They think he's going to be a future head coach. I think his scheme fits what this offense does really well. So I'm in on Clint Kubiak right now. I also think that's the type of guy you need to go for because, like, Tomlin and these other guys, if they do get fired, or Stefanski, like, I think these other guys are going to have like bigger suitors The Falcons are not like a terrible. I don't think the Falcons are a bad job, but they're not like a premium job this cycle, given everything that's going on. So I think someone like a Kubiak, you kind of a year early, kind of give him that opportunity a year early. That's kind of the route I'd like to go. But do you have any coaches you're eyeing at this point, Tre'Shon?
Man, it's tough.
It's early too, but
It's early. Kubiak's one name. I'd be interested in exploring Brian Flores. I think that's a name that would be interesting to me if we'll just to give something that's not offense. I think that he could be someone that is, just looking at what we have on this defense already, obviously as a DC, would love to have him, but as a defensive play calling head coach, I think that would be nice. I know that worries some people with, offense. How do you translate? Are you going to be able to make sure that you can keep your coordinators or do what's best? That can be tough, but I do think that that's another name that would be interesting to me.
Yeah, that's a good one. If you want to talk about total culture shift, Brian Flores would absolutely deliver that. I can't think of a more polar opposite type of guy to Raheem Morris than Brian Flores. So I'd be open just to see what happens. I mean, I do think Flores was kind of done dirty in Miami, obviously, and he's a hell of a defensive coach. And obviously, like his scheme and Ulbricht's scheme are very aggressive. So I think it makes sense with this personnel too. So I think that's a good pull. I like that one. We got Adrian Russ with the $2 saying, great W, but this game was the epitome of the whole year. Our team having to work harder to win because of bad coaching. Could have been less stressful, but no, Raheem had to go for 2, and a kick makes it a 7-point game. 25, but my heart can't keep taking this. I'm tired, man. Yeah, they made that way more stressful than it needed to be. Like, I mean, I think if, again, like we talked about it, but I think I would have done it the opposite way. It's like, if you want to do that and you want to try to win the game, like, by like taking the 1-point lead, which changes the entire complexion of multiple facets as well. So I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, well, now we have a 1-point lead, so we automatically win. No, it changes the way the Bucs play that last possession too. Like if the Falcons get that 2-point conversion, like everything goes the way Raheem wanted it to. They get that 2-point conversion, they take a 1-point lead. Now the Bucs are playing ultra aggressive on that drive instead of, I think, mistakenly playing conservatively and then trying, after they got behind the sticks, to throw, which led to the sequence of events, obviously, that led to the Falcons winning the game. Like, I think if the Bucs are trying to throw aggressively on that drive because they're down, that also changes things in a big way, and not in a good way, in my opinion. Like, I think you want the Bucs as conservative as possible in that situation, thinking that all they need to do is get a first down to win, and making some mistakes maybe with their decision-making and all those things. So I think there's multiple reasons why the way that it played out was not good, but ultimately in some ways that mistake actually set up, the Bucs having this 2-point lead and kind of playing more conservatively than I think they should have on that final drive, which probably led to the Falcons winning the game. But it's like the decision making was bad, but the result was good. This is the opposite of what you want. Like, you want to make the right decisions, and just because you make the right call doesn't mean that you're going to win. Like, there are situations where you should go for 2, where you won't get it, or maybe you'll get it, but then the other team just comes up with some kind of crazy play and you still lose the game. But if you need the process to be right, because if you're doing the right process over and over again, you're going to win more times than you're going to lose. Just keep doing the right process and things will eventually work. But keep doing the wrong process and you're going to lose more often than not. It's kind of the opposite. And you could sometimes win by doing the wrong thing, but it's not good. It's not going to last. And I think, unfortunately, that's what the Falcons are. That's what this game was. It was like, well, we did everything wrong, but we won, so doesn't matter. No, it matters. It matters a lot. It just didn't bite you today like it has, I don't know, the other like 5 times you lost 1-score games. So, just saying. We got Kevin Truck again with the $5 saying, I need the lore behind letting Landman go like it was nothing. It hurts to see how well he's doing. Well, I think this is more just like a Landman thing. I mean, Landman was not healthy last year, was not really able to play at a high enough level. Obviously, the Lake scheme had a lot to do with it. That was a disaster. But Landman was not healthy, and it just wasn't a good year for him. So as much as I would have brought Landman back as a depth linebacker, because the Falcons clearly have no good depth linebackers, and I think it was dumb to just let him walk for what he got in Los Angeles. Him playing like this is like so far beyond the like range of reasonable outcomes that I think it's not really reasonable to like ding the Falcons for not re-signing him when he's had like a heroic resurgence. Like, good for him, but it's mostly like Landman just kind of succeeding. And I think the Rams really crafting a role for him that limits his exposure and coverage, because he's still not a good coverage player. But the Rams have found a way to kind of limit that, and good for him. Like, I love Landman. I think he's always been a really interesting player, someone who's fought hard to make it in the NFL and has kind of overcome his athletic limitations and a lot of injuries too in college and in the NFL. And I'm glad he's succeeding now, certainly. But I mean, you and I were fans of Landman. It just last year, like, there's a reason they didn't re-sign him. And as much as I ding them for like not even matching like the $1 million offer he got, I mean, there's reasons they didn't re-sign him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, Hammond was awful last year. Like, even when healthy, he was just flat out bad. And credit to him for becoming a completely different player this year, and really balling out. You know, he's earned everything he's gotten over there with the Rams, but that was not the player we had last year. And you know, sometimes you make those moves and they just don't work out in your favor. The real issue is just, I think, how bad their internal scouting was on JD Bertrand, because JD Bertrand, 5th round pick, Nate Landman, undrafted free agent. And I'll tell you, I don't think JD Bertrand has necessarily looked better than Landman even last year. So, you know, the team, I think, just really wanted to be right about that pick. And unfortunately, it cost them. And like you said, Kevin, you know, kept them from, even if you wanted to just try to shrug off that season and bring Landman back for a very reasonable vet min, you know, the team just felt like, we don't need it. We've got Troy somewhere. And we've got JD Bertrand, so we're good.
Yeah, it was the second part that was the mistake. The first part was a reasonable assumption. The second part, I think, actually ends up being the big mistake here, unfortunately. We got Jordan Wilkinson with the $5. Again, did we just get out Falconed? Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think it was possible. You know, and yet here we are. And then we got George Costanza. What's up, George? Yeah, I thought you were on a cruise, George. What are you doing here? I mean, it is a win, technically, so maybe that's why you're checking it. He says, I legit said F it when Sills dropped that wide open TD pass. Wasn't going to make myself mad on my cruise. I'm glad we won, but I was legit going to rage when he literally butterfingered that pass. Still fire the whole staff, but hey, a win is a win. Yeah, I mean, look, enjoy the win, everyone. Thanks again, George, for popping in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your cruise. Like, a win is a win, and this was like just a totally bizarre like situation, and cherish this. We're probably not going to get a win like this in our lifetime. Like, again, I mean, the last time the Falcons came back from a 14-point fourth quarter deficit, I believe, was 1993, which was the year I was born. So this is I guess technically the second time in my lifetime they've, you know, had a 14-point fourth quarter comeback. But, you know, it just cherish how like weird this was and how just totally bizarre. And we're going to continue on with the necessary, you know, conversations we have to have about, like, look, this doesn't really change anything with the coaching staff. I think it makes me appreciate the players who I think, you know, there were reasonable questions at a certain point in this game. It was like, man, like, what's going on here? Like, this is so sloppy and so undisciplined. Like what's happening? But they pulled it together. They all came together, and they won. The players won this game, so good for them. But I think they did it in spite of the coaching staff, not because of anything they did. And, you know, again, when I say coaching staff, I mostly mean Morris and Zach Robinson. I think Ulbrich is doing his best. You know, I think his scheme has started to show some cracks, you know, in the second half of the season. But I think ultimately he's still been a net positive here. Kind of the only coordinator that has, unfortunately. But, you know, I've been enjoying watching this defense, who's better than any right, you know, better than we thought they would be, certainly. So yeah. Anything else you want to add, Tre'Shon? I think we've covered quite a bit tonight.
No, I think we've covered quite a bit. You know, I think I'll end on the same note as you. It's seeing, you know, there's this little small sliver of hope, guys, that at the end of this season, we'll be able to say the Rams traded away the defensive rookie of the year for a first round pick. So you know what? That's what we're all hoping for at this point. James Pearce is on great track. 3 games left, 2 away from the double-digit sack season, Kevin. You know, we don't want to count our eggs before they hatch, but we're closer than we've ever been. And we're really just hoping that we can finish strong and we can see these young guys continue to take steps because it is huge. You know, they're going to be here next year. They're going to be here regardless of whether or not this coaching staff is. And we want these guys to be building blocks. And, you know, it's really just kind of been exciting to come on here every week and have praise for the defense, because I can't remember a time when I could say something nice about the Falcons defense each and every single week. Like, you know, obviously they're not winning every game and there's been mistakes, but I can still go back and be like, well, they got 5 sacks that kid. You know, we're still seeing steps being taken. And that means something around here.
It does. And I do think, you know, this Falcons team, it's been an ugly season. We know there's a million problems and they still really need to move on from Raheem Morris as head coach. And again, it's not a personal thing. You know, I know some people get really personal with it. It's not about that for us. It's just this is a results business. And again, it's a business too. And, you know, Raheem Morris right now is bad for business, you know, on a lot of levels. And I think he is a good coach. He's just not a good head coach. And, you know, maybe someday he could become that, but just not in Atlanta, you know, and we need to turn the page and, you know, start once again, starting a new chapter here. So we'll see how the hell that goes. But again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us here tonight on Falcon Live. No, it's the late shift edition. One more prime. It seems like Monday night's staying Monday night. So they've officially announced the schedule. It's still Falcons Rams. I'm trying to figure out why they kept it. I don't know if it's because they really just want to like meme the draft pick conversation like into like the national. That's the only thing I could think of. So, you know, and also like, the Falcons have mostly delivered in prime time. Like outside of, I think there was just one bad game they had in prime time this year. But other than that, they've been pretty good.
They've been a solid primetime watch.
Yeah. So they're like, well, it's going to be, I mean, the Falcons probably aren't going to win, but like, at least they're going to deliver a good game. So it seems like they're still capable of doing that, which is good. I'd like to watch this team play on primetime, even if they don't always win, as long as it's a good game. So, but yeah, I've been enjoying watching the defense certainly, and looking forward to seeing if Kyle Pitts maybe this Kyle Pitts guy. It's taking a little time, but maybe Kyle Pitts is starting to redeem himself, and we'll see. We got a buzzer beater question from George here. Is Zane Gonzalez the future at kicker? Has he earned a roster spot in 26? I mean, I think he's absolutely earned a roster spot. I mean,
he's earned.
Yeah.
He's earned.
You know, I mean, if they want to bring in competition or something, that's totally fine. But like at this point, yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to move off of Zane. Like, I mean, if you want to try to get one of these like wunderkind, you know, super kicker types, sure. I know they obviously have. Man, I'm forgetting the German kicker's name.
Vinny Craig.
Yeah, Craig. So they got Craig, and you know he's going to be there to compete too. You know, and it seems like that's more of a multi-year sort of developmental guy. So we'll see maybe if he's ready to play anytime soon. But for now, I mean, yeah, don't if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like you know, and again, I think Zane's issue is just that he's kind of been more like that 7 out of 10 kicker. You know, and I think teams are kind of always looking to upgrade that, but based on what we had over the first like 10 games of the season, I would take Zane Gonzalez 7 days out of the week, and not look back. So I think he's more than earned at least a strong opportunity in 2026 here in Atlanta. All right, real quick, the Falcons won tonight. So for those of you tracking that 6+ wins number for the Falcons, which that was getting like actually close, like it was starting to like level off in like an uncomfortable way, I think, where it was like, oh, are they actually going to get 6 wins or not? I've maintained that I think this is still like a 6 to 8 win team, even if, you know, with everything that's going on. So Falcons right now per FanDuel to win 6+ games, back to -600 now. Obviously they've won 5, so you know, seems likely. I think they'll get at least one more, Tre'Shon. But what do you think? Where do you think the final record is actually going to be when the dust clears on this season?
Oh, I don't know because
Anything could happen clearly with this team.
yeah, I don't see 8 wins. So, I think they're capped at 7. They could easily get 6-11. The Cardinals is going to be I just don't really know how that game's going to go. But I'll say 7-10. They can get there. I'll say 7-10.
I could see that. I think it'll be 6 or 7. I think you're right there. So,
yeah.
If you guys are feeling spicy and wanting to go for that 8-win number, which of course that would mean they would have to win out. Let's see. Plus 800. So, if you're feeling extra spicy, if you think the Raheem Morris renaissance is here now after this game and this team is gonna win out to save Raheem's job, then you can get eight regular season wins at plus 800. Just remember, though, before you place that bet, that they do play the Rams on Monday Night Football. Before you place that bet, just consider that. Please consider that. So, AKA, I wouldn't do it, but it's your money, and it's your life. You guys do what you want. But thanks again to FanDuel for sponsoring tonight's episode of the Foul Call Live. And thanks again, of course, to Tre'Shon for filling in for Alan Stark tonight. He's Tre'Shon Diaz at Trey3Sean. Also at Tre'Shon.io on Blue Sky. Anything else to let the people know about Tre'Shon before we sign off?
No, for me.
All right, perfect. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm Kevin Knight of Falcoholic. Kevin, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate that. Leave us a 5-star review in your podcast platform of choice, too. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live or YouTube channel memberships if you're a video enjoyer. We appreciate everyone. It's been a tough season, and the trials have not ended yet. We got more games. We got more games to get to. We will be doing, obviously it'll be a little bit of a weird schedule because of this Thursday night game. Likely try to do a show early next week, and then I will be traveling for the holidays, so I'll probably have some recorded shows and all that. Not sure if there will be a post game for the Cardinals game, depending on how my flights and stuff are going, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. But in the meantime, we'll continue to have content for you guys, at least 1 or 2 shows a week. But with this team they're eliminated and it's the holidays, and I know you guys are also going to be busy doing your own stuff, so we may not be doing 4 to 5 shows a week the rest of the season. It's just this team has worn me down. I've tried to keep the content cadence going, but it started to get to me a little. So we'll see how long I can keep it going at this point. But we appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. We've enjoyed it. As painful as the football has been, the show has been a joy as always, and I've also enjoyed, of course, talking with Tre'Shon, talking with Alan, and Adnan, and everybody else. Appreciate everyone for coming on. So until next time, guys, thank you for joining us here on the Foul Call Live and Dirty Birds of Bruce podcast. Enjoy the rest of your night. See you guys next week.